I'm Melissa with the Marshall Garden Company, and today I'm coming to you from the porch in my rocking chair, and I've got some growing tips for Kalanchoe. Kalanchoe is in the succulent family, and it's one of those easy to grow, drought tolerant, tough to kill plants that I recommend to people who want something that they can keep indoors, but they want some flowers. This plant is one that you usually see in the stores right around Valentine's because it's one of the few things that will bloom in the winter, and it's one of those things that you see that lets you know spring is a-coming. This plant is absolutely wonderful for new gardeners or people who are just getting started, or the gardener who's like, oh, I kill everything, but I want something that I can grow inside and that will have flowers. Kalanchoe, they have these beautiful bunches of flowers on them. And they just are rock stars. But I got some tips so that you can make yours grow and you can have it for years and years and years. So a Kalanchoe, it's akin to a succulent, right? And we've already learned that succulents are friends with cactus, and that means they can handle being pretty dried out, right? So when you get your Kalanchoe, don't go drowning that baby with all sorts of water. As you learn about your plant, and I tell people this with any plant, right? The best way to learn how to care for a plant is to do a little bit of research and start with where a plant is from. So Kalanchoes, these are native to Africa, specifically Madagascar and tropical parts of Africa. That tells you, hey, this plant can handle some light. Not only can it handle some light, but it wants some light, and it also wants to be dried out a bit. So Kalanchoe, they are what we call in the horticulture world, they are epiphytes, right? And one characteristic of epiphytes is that they grow aerial roots. Those aerial roots can attach to a tree, and that plant can grow from that, right? That tells you that this plant doesn't need any heavy soil, and it doesn't want to stay super wet. So when you up pot these, when you put it in another pot, because I know y'all can't resist, you want to get it out of that plastic can. When you put it in another pot, you're going to want a chunky soil, right? A lot of the times you'll see what we call cactus mixes at the garden center, and typically those have a lot of chunk in them, and it's not going to stay wet very long because this plant doesn't want to be wet all of the time. There are more than 100 species of Kalanchoe. They come in red and pink. You can find white ones, you can find yellow ones, you can find orange ones, as my mama would say, orange ones. But there are a lot of varieties. You can find some that have multiple blooms, and then you can have some that have less flowers, right? But the special thing about these is that it's a house plant that can flower, that can handle being pretty dry if you get it in a sunny window. So I'm going to tell you, when you get this plant, I want you to find a south-facing window or a sunny window, and that's probably the best place for its home. It's drought tolerant, right? So because of that, we're not going to water it every day. We're not going to water it every week. We're going to do what we call the finger test, where you poke your finger in that plant, and if it's moist at all, don't water it. Typically, it's going to need some water every couple of weeks. So every 10 to 14 days is about when you're going to water it. And you're going to water it pretty deep because you let it dry all the way out. You're going to give it a whole bunch of water. The other tip for Kalanchoe is in the spring and summer, it's a good practice to fertilize this baby every month, right? And so you can use whatever you have around the house, right? But dilute it some. Don't give it full strength, because that sometimes will burn your plant. One more tip about Kalanchoe is how to get it to rebloom. So here's the magic, baby. Here is the trick. With a Kalanchoe, it's a good practice to deadhead it and take the dead blooms off, right? And eventually all of the blooms are going to be done. I'm going to get to June or July and I won't have as many blooms. But if I want this baby to rebloom, the secret is a Kalanchoe likes to go in the dark, right? So it's going to want 12 to 14 hours of dark for a couple of months, right? So you can hide it in a closet for a few weeks, and the next thing you know, you'll have buds on that thing all over again. A lot of the times I don't do that. I just wait until the season changes again and it'll bloom on its own. But that's a tip for some indoor flowering plants. They need these dark periods, right? Typically in the tropics of Africa, right? Once we get to the winter, right, you don't have as many hours of daylight. And even though it might live in the jungle, right? The jungle, there are plenty of trees. So it's getting this dark period to help it keep blooming. You can create that at your house for your own plant. Winston's ready to chase birds. Another thing about this plant though, thinking of Winston, it is toxic to pets. It's probably not going to kill them, but if they eat on it, it's going to give them a tummy ache. So be thoughtful about that. Don't let your little furry one eat up your Kalanchoe. Like I said, there are more than 100 varieties of this plant, and over the years it has had all sorts of medicinal uses. They use it for inflammation. They use it kind of like you use an aloe vera plant. If you get a bug bite or a burn, they'll break that thing open and rub that gel out of that plant on inflammation. I'm not a doctor, so I ain't telling you to do none of that, but it's worth researching that if that's your jam. Kalanchoe is a low maintenance, drought tolerant, blooming plant that you can grow indoors, and that by itself is special. Your Kalanchoe, or Flaming Katie, she's gonna grow 6 to 18 inches tall. She likes loose, well-draining soil. Get some cactus mix in there, and she only wants to be watered every couple of weeks and fertilizer once a month in the spring and the summer. If you found this video helpful, like it, share it, pass it along to people, and follow us online for more tips from your friends at the Marshall Garden Company.